This girl took the lives of at least 3 children. Oh, hi, stranger. Today I'm going to be telling you about the case of Christine Slaughter. Viewer discretion, as always, is advised. Christine Slaughter, yes, for real, that is her name, was born on the 12th of March 1963 into extreme poverty in Florida. Her mother was just 16 when she gave birth to Christine, and her father was 65 years old, a nearly 50-year age gap. So yes, we are off to a terrible start and it only gets worse from here, so be warned. Christine's mother didn't spend much time with her and her parents didn't get along, and I can't imagine why. They must have had so much in common. So when she was just a toddler, Christine went to live with Jessie and Dorothy Falling, and she took their name, becoming Christine Falling. They were also very poor, and Christine and everyone around her were fish baiters, people that went grubbing for worms and then sold them as bait. Christine also spent time in orphanages, and she was what they called mentally challenged from a young age. Her developmental needs were not met. She didn't receive any extra support. While she was growing up, Christine developed a very disturbing habit, and one we see in many serials, and that was the taking of animals' lives, in her case, cats. She would throw them from great heights to test their 9 lives. When she was just 14, her parents forced her into a marriage with a 20-year-old man. Unsurprisingly, this was an unhappy situation, and they divorced just 6 weeks later. Now, I did some digging about this because before the 1st of October 1977, Florida law prohibited marriage for boys under 18 and girls under 16. But from that date onwards, the statute no longer included specific minimum ages. The law then only required parental consent for anyone under the age of 18 to obtain a marriage license. Common law then applied, and that meant that the age that a person was considered competent for marriage was 14 for boys and 12 for girls. Marriages below the age of 7 were void, and between the ages of 7 and 12 for girls and 7 and 14 for boys, they were voidable. Stranger, this law stayed in place until 2018. Florida, are you okay? Now, the minimum age for marriage is 17, but if you are 17 getting married, you can't marry anybody over 2 years older than you. And let me tell you, this was not a rabbit hole I expected to go down this Wednesday evening, and I am still horrified. On with the story. After her divorce, Christine moved into a halfway house in Tallahassee when she was 16. She was called a hypochondriac, visiting hospitals 50 times in 2 years, complaining of red dots in her vision and hallucinations. She was eventually diagnosed with epilepsy, and listen, I'm no doctor, but that sounds like schizophrenia to me. The risk of that illness in girls increases dramatically between the ages of 16 and 19, and that's exactly the age she was when she started complaining of her symptoms. But again, I'm no expert. Christine would take the life of her first victim the next year. Christine was medically unable to work, and so she started offering her services as a babysitter. She was living in Blountstown, Florida. In 1980, she was hired to babysit 2-year-old Cassidy Johnson, who was known as Muffin. Muffin sadly passed away, and her death was put down to encephalitis, which is inflammation of the brain. Christine said Muffin had passed out and fallen out of her crib. In reality, Christine had used her hands to compress Muffin's airways until she passed away. The doctor in charge did not believe the passing out story and wrote a note to police recommending an investigation. However, the note was lost and police closed the case. Tragically, the rest of this story could potentially have been avoided if only investigators had seen that note. We'll never know. Only 4 months after Muffin, Christine was again in charge when 2 more deaths occurred. It was early summer 1980, and Christine had relocated to Lakeland, Florida, and she was again babysitting, this time 4-year-old Jeffrey Davis. Jeffrey passed away under Christine's care, and just a few days later, so did his 2-year-old cousin. Christine was asked to watch over Jeffrey's 2-year-old cousin, Joseph Spring, while his parents attended Jeffrey's funeral. Jeffrey's passing was put down to inflammation of the heart, and Joseph soon followed, leading doctors to believe that it was an infection that had taken the lives of both children. Those 2 deaths were just days apart. It really boggles the mind. It was 1981 when Christine killed again. She had returned to Perry, her hometown in Florida, and got work as a housekeeper/caregiver. On her first day caring for 77-year-old William Swindle, he passed away. On her first day, his death was recorded as a heart attack. Months later, in autumn 1981, Christine had accompanied her half-sister to take her baby, Jennifer Daniels, for her immunisations. Jennifer was just 8 months old, and after they left the doctors, the mother needed to get some bits from a supermarket, and so she left Jennifer in the car with Christine. She was gone just a few minutes, but when she returned, her baby girl was unresponsive and she shortly passed away. Jennifer's tragic passing was put down to sudden infant death syndrome, otherwise known as SIDS. That was the fourth child and fifth person that had passed away whilst in Christine's care. And Christine again relocated back to Blounston. And in July 1982, Christine was again asked to babysit, this time for 10-week-old Travis Coleman. And I know you know where this is going. Little Travis was found deceased in Christine's trailer. He had recently been hospitalised with pneumonia, and so initially his passing was put down to that. But soon things would come to a head, and thank the gods, because honestly, who knows what Christine's victim toll would have been. After performing an autopsy on baby Travis, he was found to have internal injuries consistent with suffocation. And on top of everything I've told you about, 3 other children that we know of needed hospitalisation after being in Christine's care. 2 of those children suffered convulsions, but they survived, and the other was put down to meningitis, but they also survived. And Christine said that this was all just a weird coincidence. She would, however, go on to confess. She was in a psychiatric hospital in Tallahassee. Let me tell you, stranger, her confessions are so disturbing. When talking about the passing of 10-week-old Travis Coleman, she said, quote, "He was asleep. I got the urge that I just wanted to kill him, so I went ahead and choked him to death, and I called the ambulance." And she also said of the tiny baby, quote, "I just choked him, no apparent reason. I just picked him up off his pallet and choked him to death and laid him back down." And this was said with no emotion or remorse. When talking of 8-month-old Jennifer Daniels, her own niece, she said the baby was crying and it made her mad, so she put her hands around her neck and choked her, and she shut up. And don't forget that they had been in the car waiting for the baby's mother. She so easily could have just gone into the store and given the baby to her mother. Christine also said she had voices in her head and they told her to, quote, "kill the baby." Christine Slaughter, or Falling, was finally arrested. When asked about her reaction to her arrest, her lawyer said, quote, "It fits the profile of a person who is a 7th grade dropout with mental problems." And I know you're probably thinking she would go down the insanity plea route, but historically there is not a lot of success in that defense in Florida. So instead she was offered a plea deal whereby she would plead guilty to the murders of Cassidy Muffin Johnson, Jennifer Daniels, and Travis Coleman. This is presumably because of the lack of investigations into the deaths early on, meaning lack of evidence, and she had, after all, already confessed to those 3. And it would be risky to try her for all of the deaths because of the factors I've just mentioned. So it is very important for me to point out that although it is believed that Christine was responsible for all of the deaths that I've told you about, she was only ever prosecuted for the 3 that she pleaded guilty to. And she was sentenced to life with parole eligibility after 25 years. But she remains incarcerated in Ocala, Florida. I also read that she's got a release date of sometime in the year 2254, so she's got some way to go yet. I tried to understand the system, but it's difficult. Christine has served around 43 years so far. So please let me know what you think, stranger. Do you think that Christine took the lives of all 6 people who passed away under her care? I know what I think, but as always, I'm very interested to hear your opinions, so please let me know in the comments. Oh, and thank you to the stranger that recommended this case to me. I had heard of it before, but hadn't done much research. And to you, if you've stayed with me up until now, then thank you for watching, and I will see you for the next one.